Love is selfless. Love is devotion, right? It's not a transaction.
Why do you think it's so challenging for successful, ambitious individuals to find like-minded people on their wavelength today?
I think the very thing that makes them successful makes it also very tough for them to find partners. Being educated is the new caste. It's a new way of thinking.
What is it about education that makes such a big change?
Education teaches you how to think. It's math, right? It's statistics, right? If you just meet enough number of people intentionally, you'd get the job done. I don't have any kind of checklist kind of approach. I'm a free-flowing guy. I like to apply my head less and just go more with the heart.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Love Handle, where we get unfiltered about love and relationships. I couldn't be more pleased to have a very special guest on today. Welcome, Poshak.
Thanks, Chandra.
Poshak is a Princeton grad, a successful business leader with a passion for creating lasting impact in various fields. So I want to begin by understanding what kind of a space are you in right now? Are you open to finding a partner? Is that something that you're interested in at this point of time?
So Harvard did a study over decades. They called it the happiness study. It actually looked at Harvard grads, who would graduate, years after years and who would participate in the study. It had other participants from, inner city Boston, right? Over a period of time, it figured out that the thing that makes people the happiest is companionship. I think companionship is a big blessing. Not everyone gets it. And so if you do, feel very blessed and cherish it.
Naturally, a lot of people are looking for that companionship, and yet so many of us struggle to find the right person to settle down with. Why do you think it's so challenging for successful, ambitious individuals to find like-minded people on their wavelength today?
Ambitious people are in many ways perfectionists. They have a pursuit of excellence that got them to be successful, and they seek that in everything they do, right? So now oftentimes they have this image of this perfect person that they're looking for. I think the very thing that makes them successful makes it also very tough for them to find partners.
So it's almost important to detach from that perfect person ideal.
There is no such thing as perfect, right? I think you've got to kind of think about what truly matters to you, and be non-compromising about that, and then enjoy the humanness in people.
I think it's important to remember that good relationships aren't found, they're built over time, and you work
100%,
at them.
100%.
So I want to talk a little bit about the landscape in India. I know this Harvard study was primarily focused on the US or the Western society, right? Yeah. Why do you think traditional matchmaking hasn't particularly worked for you or hasn't worked for others?
You see, we talked about companionship. It's an innate human need. That has always existed and will continue to exist. The problem is that people have progressed. Society has evolved, but matchmaking as a field hasn't really evolved. And so, back in the day, you had, priests in local temples and aunties in your villages who would act as matchmakers.
Right.
And villages were cut out by religion and caste, right? So what would happen is that, if you were a particular caste, you'd live in a particular part of a village. You'd all go to a local temple. The priest would try to matchmake.
Right.
Now, as obviously with modern economy, the urbanization has increased. And now people have come into the cities. They're working knowledge, sector jobs, right? They're well traveled. They have social media. They have a lot more exposure. And with that, with the education and exposure and modernization, their values have evolved, right? Factors such as caste, etc., matter less. Right. And for good reason. And I think, you want to live in a society which values everyone fairly and equally. Right. Now, the traditional matchmakers still are stuck with their old ways. They've kind of become dinosaurs. Right. They refuse to evolve. You saw the Seema auntie. Yeah. You saw Seema auntie and what a sensation she was. And even if you look at a bunch of these, I don't want to take names, but these big name shadi portals, they're doing the old way online.
Right.
And what everyone's failing to understand is that people like us, Chandra, are looking for other things now.
You mentioned the role of family in matchmaking historically, previously. Today, what role do you think families should play in finding their children partners? I'll give you an example. Like my parents, they had identified one or two people for me to meet. And when I met them, I realized that there is a disconnect between what I wanted and what they think that I should have. And I was like, wow, they really don't
So Chandra,
understand.
you want me to comment on the role of families in general or the role of family, what I advise in your life?
You can start with my life, then we can do in general.
I mean, you should definitely listen to them.
Really?
Yeah, why not?
Why?
Right? Like they have a lot of life experience and it may be important or valuable to have their perspective. My view on family in general is that families are important. And like when I talk about the traditional and modern, I'm not saying that we are rejecting the traditional values, right? I'm saying that a lot of family values and other factors matter, but you have newer factors that also matter now. Right? It's important for perhaps your partner to be educated. It's not just that, they come from a certain caste or like a certain a family or certain religion or certain income. Ki ji us pe itni zameen hai to bas shaadi kar lo. Right? Now, more things matter. Right?
Sure.
Now, you would want to look at the family background also and, because that's also an indicator of values. Right?
Yeah.
So, my advice to you and all the people is find harmony between what your family is advising you and what you're looking for, right?
Yeah.
And that I think would be the best way of doing this.
I mean, that's the ideal case scenario. Do you feel like the professional background of a family that I marry into is relevant for me? For example, if my family comes from a traditional, professional, corporate background, do you think it would be difficult for me to adjust in like a family business, more of like a traditional business setup?
So, how you do one thing is how you do, I don't want to say everything or most things, right? So, first of all, like what you do for a living influences who you are and your value systems because you spend a big part of your life working.
And also what you choose to do is a reflection of your values.
Fair enough. I think it's both ways, right? So I think in this specific case, between like corporate versus business, I think the bigger determinant is education. So if you talking to someone who's from a business family, perfectly fine. Like is he educated, right? I think that would also be a big indicator of values.
Right.
Yeah. What may not work for you, Chandra, is like an uneducated guy.
Right. Because then the expectations from a wife are very different.
Yeah.
Right? Like perhaps there would be less encouragement for me to pursue my own professional ambitions. Perhaps.
Yeah, exactly. Or you may have very different value systems, and if that guy is a business owner or an entrepreneur, you might actually just love his entrepreneurial spirit. So it doesn't have to be that you'd have to just marry into like a corporate family. It doesn't have to be at all.
Yeah.
Right? I think it just depends on the person.
So go one layer deeper. Don't just judge someone based on their profession or their family background, but understand how that influences them as a person.
The one trait I would look for in a partner is kindness. If that person is kind, then pretty much the value system is intact. Can you guys be friends? That's the other thing. Do you actually want to spend time together? Do you like hanging out together? You need to have some common interests, some things to talk about. So I think kindness and friendship, those would be very important criteria.
What kind of partner are you looking for?
I don't have any kind of checklist kind of approach. I'm a free-flowing guy. Like, I just, I go with the flow. I like to apply my head less and just go more with the heart.
You have no checklist?
No checklist.
Nothing. You don't have a picture in your mind of, okay, this is...
No checklist.
Very open.
No checklist. I don't think checklists work.
I don't want to know how controversial questions I should ask, but...
Go for it. Free-flow. Chandra, koi baat nahi.
Does a woman's income matter to you?
That's a very leading question. I don't think anyone's income matters to me. The only income that matters to me is mine. I have friends in all income brackets, but they're just great guys. Same with women.
That's true, but isn't who you choose to marry like a pretty significant economic decision for your future? I mean, it's different in the sense that with friends, you're not like building a life together in the same way you are with your spouse.
I would admire ambition in a partner. It doesn't have to be driven towards an economically driven career. She could be wanting to make a lot of money. That's fantastic. Or she could be wanting to work in the social sector or in art or whatever gives that person fulfillment. Right. So I don't think I look at people in that way. Where for me it's not a business deal. That I bring this and you bring that.
Because so many people are like, well, what do you bring to the table? What do I bring to the table? And it becomes very transactional in a sense.
Yeah.
But you are suggesting like to not enter it as though it's a business deal.
How do you make friends? If you analyze like your actual like real friends, is that a transaction? Love is not a transaction. Love is selfless. Love is devotion.
It's not what can I get in return from this.
I don't think so. I think there are different traditions in karma, and one of them is like the bhakti movement. And that's just pure love. That's just devotion. Yeah. Right? I mean, it is not saying that I would love God if you give me something in return. It is the unconditional love that matters. And I think that is what you seek in a partner, right? And that is built over time. Like, you can't just be like, you're not unconditionally loving me. Wo kyun karega? Pagal hai wo. Like it's a process over time where you go through difficult periods together and you stick by, and that's how you develop that trust and faith that person is going to stick by me in thick and thin, right? And that's what companionship is. It is not what is your income and my income and how do you look and this that, right? So I think because if that person has the right value set, they'll be with you for the right reason and they'll stick by you. That's it. Like, or kya life is a small, choti si life. It's like it's gonna go away. We overthink it.
How do you remain so optimistic about love? How do you retain that hope that love will enter your life?
I just look at life optimistically. And I'm an entrepreneur, right? Most people will say that's a very difficult thing to do. I mean, if I didn't have optimism, I wouldn't do what I do, right? So it's just how I'm wired. I like to think about life and people as, the best is ahead of me. And I just work towards that, right? So
that's really, really a beautiful outlook, I think. Like, you have to believe that good things will come your way.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then you attract that.
Yeah. You have an interesting experience in that you also studied abroad in the States. And you have probably friends who also went to college abroad and stuff like that. And I want to understand, have you felt a difference in talking to people who have spent time abroad or have had that exposure versus people who grew up in India, studied in India, and are looking for partners in India? And I'm just genuinely curious, like, how does that affect one's outlook towards dating and marriage?
I think at a very fundamental level, like, we're all very similar. We want similar things. I have friends from so many different countries, like, living abroad.
Yeah.
But I also have my local friends in Gurgaon, local Haryana friends, and they're super fun as well. Fundamentally, people are looking for similar things.
We all just want human connection.
I think we're all just looking to feel love at a very, very primal level.
But are there no cultural differences, right? Like, I think in the West,
so then I guess like families get more involved here in more traditional settings. Other factors kind of take over. Education plays less of a role, right? Yeah, so I think it's less about foreign versus Indian. I think it's more about educated versus less educated.
Interesting.
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah.
Right? Being educated is the new caste. It's a new way of thinking.
What is it about education that makes such a big change?
Because education teaches you how to think and think for yourself. And when you start thinking for yourself, you start questioning everything. And you start questioning the status quo. You start questioning things that have just been told to you. And everything that is told to you is not wrong. Listen, I don't come from a place of rejecting the past at all. Like, we've had thousands of years of civilizational wisdom that is so to say that is sort of built up, right? But I can't stick by that like 100%, right? Like, I want to take the best from that and then question things.
And I'd want a partner who shares that same spirit of questioning. I'd want someone who has critical thinking.
No other way would work.
Right.
Once you start thinking, you can't go back.
That's true. It's like
Yeah.
Pandora's box.
It's like the Pandora's box.
Yeah.
You then need to be with a partner who also thinks and is willing to question. And again, I don't come from a place of rebellion.
Is there a particular age that by which you think it's important to get married?
I don't think so necessarily, but I wouldn't build pressure on yourself to just marry just because there's like,
A deadline.
a deadline. Again, it's not like an annual deadline for business, right? It's more important to find the right person. And a few years here and there do not matter.
Do you have a timeline for yourself?
I mean, clearly not.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, between the choice of settling for someone you're not totally happy with and staying single, I would pick neither. I would continue in that earnest effort to attract someone into my life. Like, I don't think you have to just either choose to settle for someone you're not happy with and just stay single forever. I think there is an opportunity to find the right person.
And you have to put active efforts to, towards it. You have to be out there. I mean, it's math, right? It's statistics, right? If you just meet enough number of people intentionally, like, you'd get the job done. So you can't also just be like, abhi jab hoga, apne aap aa jaye. You can't be so zen about it either.
Achha,
right?
Prince Charming मेरे घर नहीं है.
वो क्यों आएगा?
क्यों नहीं आएगा?
आएगा,
If he
लेकिन
wants me, then he'll come find me,
कहाँ ढूंढेगा आपको? ना आप ऑफिस से मेट्रो पे वॉक करोगे, मेट्रो पे आप जाओगे, फिर आप घर पहुंचोगे, है ना? तो वो आपको कहाँ ढूंढेगा? So you have to be out there. You have to make an active effort to meet people. The only thing you can control is the process.
Yeah.
You can't be attached to the outcomes, right? It's detached action. Like anything you do in life, you don't worry about the outcomes, right? You just kind of think about what you can control.
As opposed to trying to just find someone organically or meet someone out in the wild, do you think there is value in seeking more professional guidance from some of these platforms or matchmakers?
I don't think you have any other choice, right? Like, I mean, think about it. Like, I mean, what are the odds that you just go to a coffee shop and like meet the right one? Right? I mean, that only happens in movies. You need to look for, people intentionally on platforms. And that's why we're building Verona, just to ease the process for people.
Yeah.
So we can have educated, like-minded people on a single platform and just meet people through Verona intentionally. And if you do that, it'll work. There's 7 billion people in the world.
Right.
You have to find one.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's got to be one person out there for you. And just, again, no checklist,
so.
know what matters to you and stick to that and meet people, have fun, enjoy the process. Don't stress out about this. It's supposed to be fun. Why are you stressing about this? No one should be stressing about this.
I'm stressed about this.
do not Chandra stress about it.
Yeah. I think it's tough because, society and people put a lot of pressure and you get the sense that time is running out. But what I'm reassured to hear from you is that there's plenty of time. You can just relax into it and be thoughtful about your process to save yourself some heartbreak along the way.
To save heartbreak along the way, as in?
If I were to be so intentional about meeting people who share similar values to me, my chances of encountering someone who's totally different from me, getting emotionally invested, breaking up, that's all a lot of additional heartbreak which can be avoided if you enter this process with clarity, with deliberation, thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maintaining your standards at a level that, you're happy with.
Yeah, just always know what you're looking for. Have clarity. Just how you run business, right? There's clarity, what is it that we are really doing and offering to people.
Yeah.
Same way, 10 different people will tell you 10 things that should matter. You should know what matters to you. And those should not be more than 1 or 2 things. That's it. And then just stick to that. Don't deviate from that.
Seems like you've drawn a lot of parallels between business, running a business and finding a partner.
I like to break down, what seems complex into very, very simple ideas.
Thank you so much, Poshak, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Really interesting conversation. I definitely learned a lot. I have so much more now. Thank you so much for watching another episode of Love Handle. If you enjoyed this video, do make sure to hit subscribe, share the video with your friends, like it, and leave in the comments below what other questions we should ask Poshak next time. See you in the next one. Bye!